Well, hello everyone. I'm Tamara and welcome to Tam's Psych Advice. Today I'm in the mood to talk about love, and it's one of those pop-up surprise videos. And I want to make sure that you don't miss out on any of the videos I do. So make sure that you subscribe, hit the bell notification, and I promise you won't regret it. So today we're talking about what makes an ENFJ's ideal relationship. So what makes an exceptional song? One that evokes emotion, strums melodious chords, and serves as the backdrop for a euphoric high? Add a little bass, some good drum beats, and the ENFJ is triggered into your soul. How about that bluesy joint that hums against sadness, paints a nostalgic picture, caresses an effervescent mood that lifts you out of a depressive woe and into imaginative bliss? A good song flows, but has an element of surprise. Illustrious notes, vocal artistry that dances into silky moves, a good rhythm, and a tricky bass. And by the way, one note will not keep an ENFJ's interest, but multiple layers housed in a song that is steady and good and ethical with a solid string section will. Too many wrong notes clashing will send an ENFJ flying. Sounds tricky, but it really isn't. ENFJs find something compelling in even the most mundane human, albeit that the person is mundane, could be the intrigue. But if you're mundane with a twist of all over the place, you pay your bills this month, but then you use it to buy a boat the next, it's okay that you have no running water because at least you got something you wanted, right? That type of unsteady won't fly with an ENFJ. When it comes to a long-term committed relationship, they want a sturdy baseline with dashes of intrigue. As intricate as this may sound, they really want normal or regular, but can you add some romance? Isn't that the secret ingredient that makes love good? ENFJs are Js, they're judges, so they like structure, they like to know what's happening. So it really helps if an ENFJ has some kind of map to follow so they can be freed up to play and have fun. A steady foundation is what gives them creative courage to enjoy you and to be spontaneous with you. And so here are some love rules. These love rules say kiss good morning, listen, never take each other for granted, say I love you, respect each other, be kind, hold hands, have fun, go on dates, cuddle, kiss goodnight. These are somebody's rules. They don't have to be yours. But what I'm saying is giving the relationship some rhythm, some definition can really help an ENFJ to thrive and enjoy the relationship better. And what stands out to me about these rules that I like as an ENFJ is the romantic part of it and also keeping your promises. That's going to be very important to an ENFJ. You got to keep your promises. So if you say you're going to do something, you need to follow through with that. And I'm not talking about you said you were going to throw my bubblegum wrapper in the trash. I'm talking about when it comes to things that are important, big things. You say we're going on a date on Saturday, you need to keep that date. So just following through with things that are important, that are significant, that are of value. If you say, oh, I'm going to take your car and I'm going to check the tires for you, then make sure you do that. That really is a way to build trust with an ENFJ. ENFJs can be complex and deep thinkers, even if they're not showing you that side of them. They are always in deep thought to some degree about what they're picking up about you, about life, about the meanings of life or hidden things. That is just kind of what they do. It's almost like a sport for them. So what is your deep? ask yourself that question. If you're not an ENFJ, but you're interested in one, that could help you to tap into something interesting about yourself. I'll give you an example. I've heard songs that are very famous, very popular, where you can hear some songs where the lyrics are so deep. And then there are other songs where the lyrics are not that deep. They're just talking about love and relationships, and there's nothing poetic about it. It's straightforward. But then the melodies and the way that they have the tracks layered, and the harmonies are so good. Everybody can't make harmonies like that. So you don't have to be deep 24/7, but what is something about you that is unique? Okay, so focus on that area and say, okay, how can I bring this side of me out? Because in relationships, it's a mating game. It's not a game, but it is a mating game. You're looking for what's interesting, what's special, what's unique. So think about something that you might be the driest person on the planet as far as your humor goes, but man, you make the best French toast that anyone has ever tasted. So you want to focus in on that thing about you, whether it's the way you dress, the way you sing, the way you love to read books, the way you're great at history. That's something that an ENFJ is going to be looking for in their mate. You may not be a deep person, but what's your deep? Songs on the radio are created with multiple tracks. So what do you hear in each layer when played alone? The drums, the strings, the synthesizer, the guitar, the bass. Do they keep the same rhythm, or does one change up from time to time to make the song richer and more interesting? So what's interesting or intriguing about you? And that doesn't mean that you play games or you still want to be yourself. That's important for anybody, because it's not fun when you're not being yourself unless you're just a jerk. That's another topic. But being your good self and then changing up some things a little bit from time to time, it keeps things interesting. Maybe you can't create music, but your signature dance move is fire. Can you sing, dance, paint, act, play a sport? How do you swag things out? You're a great cook or a good storyteller, or you tell great jokes, or you're good at helping people, or you've created something new, or you're part of an organization that's interesting. What's your church life like? Just think. That's how ENFJs think. And they're not doing it like on a conscious level, but they are attracted to that something about you that is unique or different or special. The fact that you are trying to impress them is a score. Like, they might know that you're trying to impress them, but just the fact that you are, like, maybe you're showing off a little bit, they're gonna be very intrigued by that. So speaking of finding something different about yourself, maybe and that how you have that interesting track in the music, that a bass doesn't always do the same thing. It kind of is the lane that switches up a little bit. So let's say you are a naturally shy person, but you have a favorite song and you decide one day that you're going to lip sync that song to the person that you're interested in. Let's say you're the funny guy, but one day you get really serious when you're defending something that you feel passionate about. Or maybe you're a serious person, but you like to buy your mate or shower them with little tokens of love, So yes, they want steady, stable stability, but you can put some notes in there occasionally that are kind of interesting. That will intrigue an ENFJ. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the differences in men and women ENFJs. And I think All ENFJs can relate to each other in the ENFJ realm, but if I were to put all 16 types with women in one room and all 16 types with men in the other room, guess what we would all have in common? The women would have in common that we're women, the men would have in common that they're men, and the women could have a conversation about men and arrive at many of the same conclusions. The men could have a discussion about women and arrive at many of the same conclusions. So we are all similar as women, and men are all similar as men. You can find something that is the same in how we relate, how we mate, how we think, right? And so to think that ENFJ men and women are exactly the same when it comes to relationship world is not true. There are differences, and I'm learning to tune in a little bit better to some of those differences. So definitely keep that in mind. I am speaking from a female perspective, and so some things may hit and some things may not hit. Some of the things that I might assume about an ENFJ male or about men in general may be incorrect because I'm not a man. So men do have to feel respected. Our relationship, that is going to be front and center in some ways. So a guy has to feel respected in some portion of his relationship by his wife and his children. He has to feel like he's a man or the man in some aspect of his life. So in other words, talking down to him won't work. That's why, there was a big thing about nagging. You don't hear that as much, but some women could get into the lane of nagging or talking down to the guy. That's not cool. And really across the board, no one, that's not going to work for anybody. An ENFJ period doesn't want to be disrespected or talked down to. That's a biggie, male or female. So, but no one could hurt a man like his lady can, and really vice versa. Women can cut with their words. Women tend to be more, scientifically speaking, can be more verbal, but men are vulnerable to a woman's words. So you have to be careful how you speak to an ENFJ male. And like I said, that really goes both ways because an ENFJ woman is going to feel the same way. Nobody wants to be talked down to or disrespected. Sometimes we see that in the movies where people are fighting and arguing and, cursing at each other and all of that. But you want to lead with respect in your relationship. Men have a lot of pressure to be men in this world, and that's something that us women may not fully understand. And so generally speaking, men do not want to be quarrelsome with a wife. So you gotta respect your ENFJ male. An ENFJ woman wants stability above all else. They want to be covered, protected. Stability includes not game playing, not cheating, not doing intermittent reinforcements, which would be a pattern of I'm consistent and now I'm inconsistent for long periods of time. That can work to reel someone in, but the ENFJ is going to see through that pattern and it's going to drive them nuts and it's going to destroy the relationship, and you're not going to get the best ENFJ because ENFJs period needs some sort of security, and that goes for men as well. They're not going to want the whole gameplay. Flirting is one thing, the game of flirting is one thing, but by stability, we think of providing a home, having a steady job, just all of those things. But you have to think about stability, period, is what any ENFJ is going to want. When we think of the traditional men versus women, we think of provider, protector, and nurturer. And I think it helps everyone to feel a little bit safer in relationships because We're all very vulnerable. When there's some level of roles, even if you're not traditional, an ENFJ is going to want to understand, okay, what roles are we playing here? What are things that you're going to do? What are things that I'm going to do? It just makes things make more sense. It's that map again that I was talking about earlier. And sometimes it's a little confusing to know, okay, what the heck is provider, and what does that mean? And I was listening to another YouTuber talking about, in the heart of the pandemic, for example, he noticed a lot of men running certain errands that maybe you would see both genders. And when he would have conversations, it's like, oh, well, the men would say, well, I'm going out here for my wife because I want to protect my household. I don't want them to be exposed to COVID. I would rather step out there and do that. So, just being a covering for your wife, that is appealing and attractive to an ENFJ female. And an ENFJ male is going to want to play that role and be very comfortable in playing that role of covering his family and protecting and providing. He's going to want to do that. So some of the things that an ENFJ is going to want, they're going to want structure. They're going to want to be attracted to you. What is wrong with attraction? I mean, I know that's not the first that, people will argue about that, but that is what separates a romantic relationship from just your everyday average friendship. And especially from a man's perspective, a man he's going to approach you not because, oh my goodness, she looks like the most intelligent person I've ever seen. He's going to approach you based on how you look, his attraction towards you. So attractiveness is important. It may not mean as much to a woman as it does a man, but just that protection, God, these are things that people in relationships are going to want. ENFJ female is going to be attracted to the fact that you love them. They want to feel loved. They want to be deeply cherished by you. And all ENFJs are going to want to feel special and unique to you. Sort of like how they want to see something deep or special or unique about you. They're going to want to be in that limelight with you as well. They're going to want to feel that from you, that you feel like, wow, I got somebody amazing, or I'm so lucky that I found you. They're going to want to feel that. That gives them energy. It gives them excitement. It makes them want to be more special to you. And in return, you receive a lot of love and respect back from them by making them feel like they are wanted or needed. ENFJs need to feel appreciated and to know the attributes that you like about them. They want to know those. Do you think your guy is strong? Let him know that. Do you think she's pretty? Even if you don't think she's the best looking, you gotta let her know that she's attractive to you. I was watching Married at First Sight a couple of years ago, and there was a couple, they went out on a date, and she asked, how do you rate me from a 1 to a 10? And he said, I give you about a 5. Oh my goodness, that you can't do that. How is that romantic? You're in a romantic relationship. And the guy thought that he was being fair. But we're not talking about fair. We're not talking about apples and oranges. We're going to bring some different things to the relationship based on male and female. Our bodies are not even created equal. So to give your male or female ENFJ to rate them as a 5 is deflating. You want to say, oh, I give you a 12, or I give you 100. That's what flirting is all about. It's building that person up. And guess what? When you give somebody more positives than negatives, that ENFJ is going to want to discover the moon for you. If you build them up that way, they're going to work harder to be that. So how do you meet the needs of an ENFJ spouse, or a spouse in general? You have to care about each other being fulfilled in life. But if it's one-sided, that's awful for an ENFJ. They're not going to want a one-sided relationship. Here's something that's a little tricky, but an ENFJ is going to notice it. An ENFJ is often used to going without getting their love language needs met, okay? They're kind of used to giving it. Now, that's not to say that they give it perfectly, because they might be lacking in some area that you really, really need. I'm not saying that they're just the perfect whatever, but ENFJs can become accustomed to giving the love languages and not receiving them very well. It's not going to be fun to an ENFJ if they're always doing your love language, and the way that you support them is by doing more of your own love language. Let's say you decided, oh, mowing the lawn, taking care of the yard is super important to me. And so you got your ENFJ outside mowing the lawn and doing that kind of stuff when it's really not their thing. And you come outside and you're supporting them in that. Oh, you're out here watering the yard. Okay, well, let me help you water it. When it's really not their thing, it's really more your thing, but you've got them doing your thing and you're coming out supporting them on it. ENFJs are going to see that. And it's like, okay, but what about my needs? Do you ever meet the ENFJ's needs? You need to find out what their love language is, and you need to pour into it some type of way. ENFJ doesn't want to date a mean person. An ENFJ doesn't want to date a mean guy or a mean girl. Someone that's confrontational all the time, or someone who's superficial. Neither one of those, okay? They want the real you, and it doesn't mean that they can't debate some things or that they can't have an intense argument about something that is interesting or passionate, like a topic. It doesn't mean that they can't do that. But when you're confrontational in the sense of, that dress is ugly, why did you act that way in front of those people? You always want to use some tact when you are with an ENFJ mate, because they're going to be very sensitive to you and what you say. What you say could shift them into an entirely different gear. You might be having a moment where you're just frustrated and irritated. Well, you need to come back and say that. You might say, hey, you know what? I love it when you hug me. That feels good. I was just having a bad moment. Because an ENFJ may take that and apply it forever now. Like, okay, they hate when I hug them. And that's not the case. So just be sensitive to your ENFJ. An ENFJ is not going to be attracted to somebody who wants to fight all the time or be super aggressive all the time. And by aggressive, I don't mean protecting someone or standing up for your rights. I mean aggressive as you always have a temper, you're always mean, you're always agitated, you want your way all the time. That's not attractive to an ENFJ. How do you carry yourself? An ENFJ wants to be a team with you. They want to know that you've got each other's back, that you are in this together, that you have a deeper level of understanding. They want to enjoy your company. They want to enjoy being with you, feeling safety and love and care. And we can laugh together. We can have great conversations. We can talk about what's on our minds or what's on our hearts. An ENFJ is going to want to please you and make you happy. For an ENFJ, appreciation goes a long, long, long way. They will build a skyscraper for you if they feel appreciated. They do not want to be taken for granted or taken advantage of. I think ENFJs can be good at meeting the needs of their mates, but nobody wants to feel taken for granted. And I think sometimes people can start feeling like the ENFJ doesn't really have any needs, or I'm enjoying getting my needs met so much. Be careful with that, because over time, that's going to be a problem. So you want to make sure that you're checking in with your ENFJ mate, that you are meeting their needs as well. If you're not sure what their needs are, ask, what can I do for you? What can I do to help make you happy? That's really important. An ENFJ can handle straightforwardness. They can handle straightforwardness, but you don't want to insult them. You have to be very careful with that, because their minds are very active in that way. They pick up on nuances, and they could, because they are extroverted feelers, they could take that one thing that you didn't mean anything by, and they can flip it on their heads, especially when they're vulnerable in love. So you have to learn how to mix straightforward with tact. And by straightforward, or by not using tact, I mean, you're saying what it is that you need or want without insulting the ENFJ. And I'm going to admit, that's tricky. That's tricky to not do, because you could be feeling like you're saying what it is that you need, but you want to be careful not to be personally insulting something about the ENFJ while you're trying to get what you want. And that is a tricky task. Love is stable. Without love, life is, it's just not as flavorful. We'll say it that way. So are you trying to please yourself, or are you trying to please the other person? When you're in a relationship, you got to put the other person's goal, what do they want? An ENFJ, if you're pouring into them, they're going to pour back into you. That's just how they think. They're not interested in taking advantage of what the other person gives to me. It's like, wow, that feels so amazing that I want them to feel that same thing. I'm going to pour back into them. And that's what you have to do for each other. So an ENFJ is going to more than likely want a commitment, too much up and down, back and forth. What are we doing? Just think of the world we live in now. People are into, there are some people that are in situationships or friends with benefits. Situationships are confusing. There's a lot of gray area where it's not as defined. What are we doing? An ENFJ is not going to have a lot of patience for that. That's irritating and aggravating. What are we doing? I don't want to waste my time. Time is precious. And so, and also being, even if that extroverted J makes them seem tough in some ways, at the core is sensitivity. They have to be that way to have the deep understanding of people that they generally do. So situationships, that's really not going to fly unless that's just, the stage that they're in. It's going to get kind of old, and it's really not humanitarian like. So your commitment towards a person should motivate you to give them what they need. Isn't that part of the fun of being in a relationship? That's what the ENFJ expects. If you want a certain type of relationship, you have to be that too. If you want to be given to or treated well, you have to treat the ENFJ well. It goes both ways. ENFJs understand people on a higher level. Deep inside, they can feel frustrated with people who have poor people skills. So while you're single, you want to develop your skills for how you should treat someone in a marriage. So in other words, waiting until you get married to figure that kind of stuff out, start developing some skills now, like cooking or even cleaning up or organizing. Those kind of things are going to make your relationship better and go more smoothly, even though those are things that you might take for granted or you might not know what to do in your single season. Prepare by, just developing some good skills that you can bring to the relationship, even though that piece of it doesn't sound very fun, but it can make the relationship work a lot better. So think about, how do you treat your friends and your coworkers? Do you treat them well? We know there are some people who treat their so-called friends and coworkers like crap, but most people will treat those people with respect, and then they think that they can treat their personal relationship as a punching bag. I think ENFJs want you to hang in there with them. So if you made a commitment, let's work through the tough stuff. But that means we both got to be willing. They don't want to have a tough day with you where something, some deep hurt or some pain from the past creeps up and you work through it and maybe it doesn't go so well. They're going to want you to start all over and try again the next day. Let's push through our difficulties, both of us. Let's keep trying to see if we can figure this thing out. They don't want you to give up because, oh, well, we just hit a bump in the road, or, oh, we had one argument, or now we have this conflict. If they are pulled back, you step up to the plate and say, hey, let's talk about this, or can I give you a hug, or I know that was tough what we just went through, but I want to keep trying. ENFJs can be reeled back in. So if you see them kind of pull away, it might be because they just don't quite know what you're thinking or feeling, or they don't want to make things worse. I would say probably the most important thing to an ENFJ is being nice. Acts of kindness can go a long way in a relationship and make you very attractive to an ENFJ. Your acts of kindness change how an ENFJ looks at you and acts towards you. So maybe they're just kind of looking at you like, you're just an average person. Not to say that you are, but there's nothing that has sparked or piqued their interest. They're just like, oh, okay, that's, that person is in my college class or whatever. And let's say they drop their books and you run over to help them. They're going to look at you differently after that. Like, wow, like you went out of your way to help me in some way. That goes a long way. Feeling of, hey, this is working. Let's say something mechanical go, or just something doesn't go right, and you both step in to help each other fix the situation. Helping each other is appealing to an ENFJ, that, wow, like we're working really well together. This feels really, really good. Allowing an ENFJ to have their feelings, to feel what they feel, and helping them feel safe in doing so is going to go a long way. Just allowing them to speak their thoughts, because they're going to want to know what you're thinking and how you feel and what's important to you and what matters, and coaxing that out of them, making them feel safe enough to do so. Sometimes they may not feel comfortable, but other times they're going to want to be able to say, hey, this is how I feel about this. And even if you disagree, just giving them the permission to say, it's okay. I want to know how you feel. How you feel is important. Understanding that sometimes they might be a little moody at times. Like they may kind of be in a dark, deep place for a minute. Just allowing them to feel what they feel. Hey, do you need a cup of tea? How can I make you feel better type of attitude? But just kindness, being respectful, but also they want you to be yourself. That's important. They would not feel happy if they felt like, I'm with this person and they are totally changing everything about themselves. Now, if you're changing something for the better, let's say you just had no motivation and now you do have motivation, that's great. But you think the ENFJ needs you to be serious all the time, so you're never funny. Another interesting thing though about funny, they like funny, But you, like I said, personal insults, constant teasing. There are some types that they show affection by teasing the person. You know, the kid that pulled your ponytails on the playground. That's ENFJs. They're kind of serious. They're ENFJs can be super silly and playful, but then at the core, they're kind of serious in a way. So if you're constantly teasing them in a I'm making fun of you kind of way, and it's a little tricky because you can tease them in a way that's flattering, but then you can tease them in a way that's not flattering at all. Let's say the person has a northern United States accent and you're always making fun of the way that they talk and you giggle and laugh about it. That's teasing in a way that is off-putting. But if you say, I love the way you talk, it's so attractive, like it turns me on the way you say blah blah blah, like oh, it's so cute, like, you know, if you say it in a flattering way versus I'm making fun of the way you walk. Well, what if they can't help the way that they walk and you're constantly pointing out their flaws, the way they eat, the way they, that's annoying, you know? So you don't want to be that way in a relationship, period. So if you're needing some help in your relationship, I've got the perfect solution for you. I've written a book called Flip the Script on Love. It's about romance. It's about love. It's about getting to the commitment that you want. It's about helping yourself to heal in areas where you've been hurt, because, you know, the crux of life is romance, is love, and you want to make that the best experience that you possibly can. So check out Flip the Script on Love by Tamara Hunter Zyon. It's on Amazon. And if you are an ENFJ and there's something that I left out that you look for in a romantic relationship, please put it in the comments. I want to know. We all want to know. I'm sure I missed something. So what is appealing to you about a mate when you're an ENFJ? Let us know in the comments. And thank you, friends, so much for your support. Share this video with people that you want to understand you more. Subscribe to my channel because it makes me happy. And I will see you on the next video, friends. Bye.